Welcome back to another video in our basic networking course. Today we're going to go over port channel. So in basic terms, port channel is used to combine switch ports into one logical connection. That way we can increase bandwidth between the switches as well as a little bit of redundancy. It's important to note that settings for all ports on both sides must be identical, meaning speed, duplex, etc. And in this video, we're just going to do some very basic intro to port channel. You can do more complex things with it, but we're going to keep it simple here. So we're going to go over some new commands in this lab. Those include channel-group followed by a number, mode followed by a mode. This is going to create your port channel and place the current interfaces within it. So you have to be inside of the interfaces that you want the port channel for before you issue this command. The next command is interface port-channel followed by that same number that you specified in the channel group, and that will enter the port channel interface so that you can configure it. Following that, we have show ether channel summary. This is going to show the status and details of your port channels. And finally, show interface port-channel followed by the port channel number. This will show more specific info about a single port channel. So our simple steps to create a port channel include entering the interface range that you wish to make a port channel and shutting them all down, then creating the channel group, then entering the newly created port channel interface, which is created when you make that channel group. Fourth, you'll configure the port channel as a trunk with allowed VLANs, etc. And finally, you'll enter that original interface range and bring all the interfaces back online. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the lab for this video. As you can see, the purpose is obviously to configure a port channel between these two switches. Task number 1 says, notice how several of the switch links are orange. This represents spanning tree protocol, which prevents looping. Or rather, this means that the ports are not currently acting like a single port. You can see you've got some green over here and some orange. That means that these specific ports are currently blocked by spanning tree, and only the top port at the moment will actually pass traffic back and forth. So we don't want that. We want these switches to be able to pass traffic on all three of these ports at the same time to increase our bandwidth. So task number 2 says perform a ping test to verify connectivity. So if we hop into PC 0, we can go ahead and ping the other PC at 192.168.0.2, and we can see that we have connectivity. So if we move on to task number 3, it says configure a port channel that encompasses F0, 10 through 12 on both switches. We'll go ahead and start with switch 0. Hop into our command line interface, go into global configuration mode, and we'll enter that interface range F0, 10 through 12. Our first step says shut down these ports and then create the channel group. So channel-group, we'll say group number 1, mode active. Our next step says enter that newly created port channel. So interface port-channel 1. And then we're going to configure it as a trunk with allowed VLANs. So switch port, mode, trunk, switch port, trunk, allowed, VLAN 1. Just because 1 is the default VLAN that we have configured on these switches at the moment. Our final step says go back into that interface range F0, 10 through 12 and issue the no shut command to bring them back online. Let's go ahead and hop into our other switch and perform the same steps. Get into global configuration mode. From here, we'll enter that interface range of F0, 10 through 12 and shut them down. Then we'll create our channel group 1, mode active. From here, we'll go ahead and enter our port channel interface port-channel 1. And now we'll configure it as a trunk. So switch port, mode, trunk, switch port, trunk, allowed, VLAN 1. And finally, we'll go back into that interface range, F0, 10 through 12, and issue the no shut command to bring them back online. And that should be it for that task. So obviously the ports are not green yet. We're going to go ahead and fast forward here because this process might take a couple of seconds to complete. We'll wait for them to stop switching back and forth. So now we can notice that they are all green. This means that now we have one logical connection between these two switches, and messages can be sent along all of these ports at the same time. So our step 5 says review and verify the port channel configuration. So if we hop into one of our switches, we can issue our 2 show commands. So show ether channel summary. That shows us that we do indeed have a port channel encompassing 10, 11, and 12. And we can also enter the show interface port dash channel 1 to see more specific details about that port channel. Moving on, task 6 says perform a ping test to verify connectivity. So we can go back to PC0 and issue that same ping command again. And sure enough, we still have connectivity. Task 7 says shut down 2 of the ports in the port channel on the switch on the left and perform a ping test to verify connectivity. Alright, so we'll go ahead and hop into this switch. We'll go into global configuration mode and we'll go ahead and interface range F0 11 through 12. And we'll shut those 2 down. If we hop back over here into PC0 and issue that same ping command from before, we should already know that it is going to succeed, and it does. So that was a brief overview of port channels. I hope that you guys were able to get something out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.